blah blah. I am talking.
No, don't talk.
Oh,
You did the opposite. Up too late.
Oh,
We
sorry,
already started. That you broke it. You broke it.
oh, jeez. I'm
Oh,
just, I'm just trouble.
you are just trouble.
Oh boy.
Hello, everyone. Let's see. Got to wait a few seconds to make sure we're live, and we're live. So, yes, somehow through the miracle of Amazon, Jason and I saw the D&D movie Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves today at 2 p.m. Eastern in different cities. He saw it in Pittsburgh, and I saw it in New York. And we have not really spoken since we each saw the movie. And just a little tidbit, Jason and I used to review movies semi-professionally for Carnegie Mellon School newspaper for years. For years and years and years.
This is true.
Yes, we did. So, and we went to a lot of screenings in the old days, and it was pretty interesting. We saw some good movies, and oh boy, did we see! Oof. Boy, when you're a movie reviewer, you get invited to every single movie, and I'd say about.
Well, I can remember vividly that Joe Pesci's The Super. My review was so bad that the people who were giving us the passes threatened to revoke our passes.
Wow, I don't even remember that. But
you don't remember that?
No,
yeah,
but I do remember.
I mean, you laughed it off. You laughed it off. So I don't. Perhaps you did. It didn't register, but I remember that because you mentioned it's like the guys who gave us the passes are kind of upset. Like. Well, I was upset I had to sit through the Super.
Dude, I had to see Run. Okay, take a look that one up.
I believe the headline was something like "Run ... far away from this movie" or something.
Right, that was the headline from the. We have some pretty good ones back then.
I believe the since we're talking late '80s, early '90s, I believe the best movie we probably would have reviewed would have been Dances with Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I did Dances with Wolves. Or do you know, we saw it together, but I think you wrote the review.
I think I wrote the review, but I think we both did go see it.
Yeah. And that was amazing.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, we're going to do this is going to be spoiler free, at least in the beginning. Maybe we will. So, it looks like a couple of people in the stream saw it as well. And I want to at least start with no spoilers for those people who want to come in and see it. Plus, it's in the title. So,
just to recap the context, if you have Amazon Prime was somehow underwriting a screening today, but the actual release date is Friday the 31st.
The 31st, so. Yes. It's also out in Australia, I think, already.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been out in places. What did you think, Jason? We'll start with you.
I actually really liked it. I think my initial vibe was that it was like Guardians of the Galaxy, but with a sword and sorcery reskin. It had the same sort of like Team of Misfits thing going on, and it balanced that. It walked that clever line of like having fun with the premise while not like just devolving into stupidity, and also not like condescending to the material and this is just a stupid game, so we don't have to take this seriously. And so I really enjoyed it. It was obviously it got like fun D&D themes, action set pieces and CGI, and Chris Pine being a witty bard, and I really think they did a pretty good job with it. So I won't use the thumbs up because the ghost of Roger Ebert may come back for me, but I enjoyed it.
I couldn't believe how good it was. I was like, this isn't just good, not even great. I was like, this is fantastic.
Yeah, I would equate it to like the mid to low upper tier of the Marvel movies. There's probably some of the Marvel movies that are better than it, but it's probably better than about half to 2/3 of the Marvel movies.
I'd say even 2/3. I mean, considering the closest analogy I can think of. So I went and I brought my son Adam to see it. He's 16 and he knows nothing about Dungeons and Dragons. He does not play role-playing games at all. and he knew nothing. In fact, he was a little like, ugh. A little like, we're seeing what? And I'm like, just trust me. And then he was laughing his ass off during this movie. In fact, now I saw it, the theater was packed, and of course, these are people who wanted to see a movie. I couldn't actually even hear the movie because people were laughing so much during this movie. I could. It was very funny. I mean, people were really getting into it, and they were laughing. And without spoilers, there's a couple of audible gasps in this movie.
Yeah, my crowd was similar. It wasn't as packed. It was like it's one of those, the lower part and then the upper slanted part. Yeah. The upper slanted part was completely full. The lower part had some empty seats in it, so it wasn't completely packed, but it was pretty close to capacity. And yeah, I was surprised at how many. It was getting a pleasantly large amount of audience reactions.
Oh yeah,
and in the right places. I mean,
Oh, it was freaking funny. I mean, it was really once it got going, it was fast and furious. And what I was going to say is the closest analogy, which also has Chris Pine in it, is Star Trek, the first Star Trek movie.
Yeah, like if Captain Kirk never actually becomes totally serious.
Right.
I mean,
it's very similar movies because I saw the first Star Trek, and I'm sure most of you seen it, the 2009 movie, I believe it is, and that thing was so good that I told all my non-geek friends to see it, and they were like, "Come on!" And I basically put it on the line, like I guarantee you're gonna like this movie. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you like science fiction Star. It does not matter. You're gonna like this movie because it's just done really well, and it doesn't matter what the genre is, and everyone liked that. I saw that movie multiple times. Everyone I know saw that. I brought to liked it. This is that type of movie that you can bring anyone to, and as long as they like fun, they're gonna like this movie.
Yeah, they slid the D&D in there, but they weren't like overbearing to the point where they made it only a film for D&D fans. They kept it.
They did it perfect.
They kept it to a manageable thing where, like, there were a couple times where you're like, I know that thing, but at the same
there's a lot of those times.
It still worked as a general movie. It was still entertaining and fun, and the ultimate test I have is do I ever check my watch? Because if I check my watch, I know a movie sucks, and I did not check my watch.
Well, on top of that, the movie's 2 hours and like 20 minutes or something. I didn't look at my watch once, and it flew by. Like, I was like, oh my god, this movie's over. I was like, it is flying by, that movie, because it was just so much fun.
Yeah, it was. That's true. It was paced really well. It was not a lot
really well
not
paced.
A lot of 20-minute downtime for exposition and serious character. I mean, there were a couple little moments here and there, but they got through those fairly quick and got back to just keep the fun train rolling. And
yeah, it was. And on top of that, I mean, there's a lot we could talk to. So the director. It was actually two directors. It was John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein. And they have done actually very few movies together. Let's see. What did they do? I'm just looking them up. Jonathan,
I guess I should bring up IMDb if we're going to have to look at some things on this.
Let's see. He directed Game Night, which was pretty damn good, by the way. That's like one of those underrated movies.
I have to admit, I didn't see it, but now I'll probably throw it into my queue or things I need to see at some point.
He did Vacation, the one in 2015.
Oh, the Head Helms
which was
remake?
Also pretty good. And that's it. That's it. That's all this guy. I can't believe he was the writer, though. They wrote this movie too, by the way. And I said it before. If you have the directors and the writers the same people, I'd say 85% chance it's going to be pretty good. He wrote Spider-Man Homecoming. He wrote Horrible Bosses. He wrote Game Night. And those are all pretty good scripts.
Yeah,
so these guys, not only did they do a good job, but I was watching this movie, and it had a very much an Edgar Wright vibe to it with all the quick shortcuts. And then even some of the scenes, like, and you've seen in the trailer where I won't tell, no spoilers, but where you see the druid and she goes from one room into another. There was a lot of that, and it felt very Sam Raimi, and the camera work was fantastic. Like, I was like really impressed. I was very, very impressed with this movie. I hate to say it, on so many levels. Like, the writing is good. The acting was really, really good, except for one person I'll get to. The camera work was fantastic. Everyone is 1,000% committed to the role. The special effects look perfect. Just the right amount of special effects. Very Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, not too much, not too little. It was the sound, everything. I mean, it was like everything was good. Like, there's no like one part you're like, oh, it's bad. And
so now I'm trying to figure out who you were talking about being the one actor that you didn't, the one performance you didn't like.
They were all good, but Michelle Rodriguez, who was good, don't get me wrong, she had a tough role to play. She's playing a stoic barbarian. Her jokes were okay. She wasn't as good with it as I think other actors could have been. She was semi-replaceable in this movie, I'd say.
See, I like Michelle Rodriguez in this thing.
I thought she was... No, get me wrong. She was good, but Chris Pine and, Chris Pine and Hugh Grant...
Yeah.
Oh my God, they were out acting her. Like, they were many levels past her in terms of acting. Many, you have to admit.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, and I will give credit that a lot of what I liked about Michelle Rodriguez's work was the fighting scenes and the physicality side.
She was good. Don't get me wrong.
She did okay. She was good. I mean, I laughed at all the jokes. You know. But I mean, some of them did come off a little like, stiff. I see what you're saying, a little flat, a little stiff or whatever, but still. But then again, she's a barbarian. She's not supposed to have a finely tuned sense of humor. So you could argue that that's not inconsistent with who she's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I mean,
and Renee Jane Page. Mr. Bridgerton. Mm-hmm. Oh boy, was he's a good actor.
Yeah, and
he was good.
I don't. Since this is a gaming podcast, is it safe to give away the class that he played? That he would have been the paladin.
He was a paladin type, and he looked it, and he was so good. So the other thing they did is that, okay, now let's talk about it as a D&D movie. Is there a ton of D&D monsters? Not really. Not really. The ones you see in the trailer, that's kind of it, which is fine. That's fine.
But they gave you just enough to remind you.
Just enough.
It's like, just the time. Anytime you think you're about to drift into, oh, this is just standard swords and sorcery, like, here, have some D&D content.
Yeah.
And it's like the nod of respect, the tipping of the cap to the serious D&D fans or whatever. Like, here you go. This one's for you, kids.
Yeah,
and I think that was the right level, because if it became all D&D, it might have been a little alienating.
Yep.
I mean,
it was it was very good. The other part that I thought that was really good is that, oh my God, if like, when you watch it, it's like, the whole time I was thinking, would this be an actual D&D adventure that you play? And would this be an actual party that you play with? And the answer is yes.
Except that the min-maxers would have insisted on having a healer. There was no
healer. But besides yes.
I think that's the part of the thing, is it captures... that I thought, based on the previews, and now I think, having watched the movie, is it does in a way capture the chaos of a gaming table, in that, like, the adventure goes off the rails, and then the party has to figure out what the hell to do about it. And okay, the DM is in this case the director of the movie, but it captures that same sort of chaotic energy in a way that was really appealing. I mean,
it felt like, because, I was watching some other people previewing, and they said one of the most important parts of it is that you need to have a group of people who are ribbing on each other and yet are still a party. Now that
Yeah.
is a staple. It's so funny. It's like the first D&D movie totally, actually all the other movies totally missed that. They were always so serious. But really what made this happen is because Marvel movies have that down to a T. I mean, think about all the phase 1, 2, and 3 Marvel movies up to Endgame. It's like that's them. That's the Avengers. They all are a team, but they rip on each other.
A
And
little sarcastic and dysfunctional around the edges,
yes,
but they still basically get along. Yeah.
right.
So,
And that is what this was to a T. And
yep.
you could totally see, and there's going to be there, oh man, without spoilers, there were some things in there that are now going to be staples at my game table because there were some good memes in there. I was like, yep, that's going to be like, they had some really stuff I've never heard before. I can't believe how good this movie was.
Well, and Chris Pine is the player. In addition to being the bard, he's the player that kind of hogs the action. But sometimes his plans don't work, but sometimes he pulls something amazing out of his ass. So
yeah,
he tends to be the guy who sort of drives the action, and the other players at the table kind of go along with it. It's like, okay.
yeah. Kay Steinwad for $5 for says, if your rules lawyer avoided like the plague, LOL. If you support the rule of cool, go see it. A lot of inspiration, a lot of fun ways. Look, you're not gonna no one does. You're not gonna do rules lawyering, but you will know what every spell is. Like, you will watch it and you're like, I know what that spell is. I know what that spell is. I know what that spell is. Every spell is a spell, I think, from the game. And they even say a couple of them. And you're like, yeah. And they
even found a use for prestidigitation.
Oh, I mean, that was funny.
And they pulled a joke based on prestidigitation, and it was pretty great.
It was pretty great. I mean, there's probably a good, like, 50, 70 good laughs in this movie. It wasn't like one or two. I mean, it is just that second half when it gets rolling. Oh my God. Again, I think what we'll do is we'll do the first part where we're going to do no spoilers.
And at some point, we'll turn on the spoiler
side. We'll turn on the spoiler side.
Yeah, but as far as the rules lawyer thing, yeah, if you're going to sit there and break it down and make sure every action sequence fits into 6-second rounds,
right.
It's going to fail. It still has to be accessible to a general audience. So they did bend, break, and otherwise mutilate the rules some. But I think they did it no worse than they would have had to do it. I don't think that, and they did it with a place of still trying to. And I think they still tried to respect it ultimately. I mean, I don't, they did what they had to do to make a watchable movie, but no more.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, I can't. It was one of the rare. So it's obviously easy to say that. It's like, okay, we want to make a movie that's fun and respectable of the source material, but yet anyone can go see it, whether or not they've ever played Dungeons and Dragons, and it's like just that level of fun and snark and goof, but not too much. It's like, it's very hard to do, and the only people that have really done that well consistently was the Marvel movies, and more importantly, the I'd say obviously the last Spider-Man movie. Ooh, that really hit it out of the park with that. When you had the three Spider-Mans talking to each other, that was fantastic. I mean, that alone was worth the movie, and that they have that, and obviously Guardians of the Galaxy, which has it in spades, and it's like people were saying this is Guardians of the Galaxy with fantasy.
That's I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy was. I mean. That was one of those movies where I expected nothing going in. I had been like, Marvel finally got high off their own supply and think they can turn anything into a movie. Here's this weird 70s comic book about a talking tree and a raccoon. This is gonna be ridiculous. And it was actually arguably one of the best Marvel movies up to that point in the MCU.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And it still is incredibly good even now.
And this one has that same energy. I mean, I didn't necessarily sit there and slot every character into their counterpart, but it's kind of got that same sort of lovable band of misfits led by a guy who arguably shouldn't be the leader, but
Yes.
sometimes pulls off a good one anyways, in spite of
It's
it.
it's you can't get any more similar without saying it means Guardians of the Galaxy in fantasy. It literally is. And you know what? It's so good. Um this is what I'm gonna say. So do you like comedy? Do you like really good set pieces? Do you like fun action? And do you like the cast? Which is important because they're in that a lot. um, and do you just want to have a freaking good time, man? Do you just want to have a freaking good time? And the answer is whether or not you don't need to know anything about D&D. You don't have to know anything about fantasy. You don't have to know anything. And I'm going to tell you that go see this movie. I've not had this much fun in a movie theater seeing a movie. Oof, in a long time, man. I can't even think. A long time. Maybe even years. I mean, I have not seen.
Can't be too long because of the third Spider-Man. But
that was probably the last time I'd say the third Spider-Man. But but like where you had audience like actually reacting like that. The last time was Endgame.
I've been thinking about that's the thing. Like a lot of the Marvel movies since Endgame have been kind of like, okay. I mean, they're there. I still watch them, but I mean, a little bit of diminishing returns. And this was refreshing. I mean, in part because it wasn't Marvel, but it did kind of recapture some of that energy.
And Marvel's been on a real downturn recently, so it was almost like I wouldn't say the torch has passed, but this movie's going to make $1 billion. Okay, it's going to be a huge hit. I'd be amazed if it wasn't. B, they're making sequels, and C, I can't wait. I'm like, I cannot wait to see them. Okay,
yeah, this definitely did enough to punch the ticket for movie number 2, both in terms of getting made and in terms of me being willing to go see it.
Yeah, totally. There was a couple things I want to note. Did you note they called it Hasbro's Dungeons and Dragons?
I did see that. I stuck around for the credits.
The credits were really good. The end credits were excellent, by the way. And there's a scene when we get into spoilers. That scene at the end, holy crap! Was that the scene? That was one of the best end credit scenes I've seen in a while.
Just as a logistical, there's a mid-credit scene, but there is not an end credit scene. So if you're one of those people that stays around for everything, you can bail after the first mid-credits.
Yeah. So people are saying stuff about wokeness. I'm not going to talk about any of that because, to be honest, don't care. All I care is I have a fun movie. I don't care if there's rabbits in it or men or women or aliens. Couldn't care less. I just want to have fun, man.
Well, I'll take a little bit of a swing on it.
Okay.
In that I feel like the writer used the word emasculated the male characters, which that's kind of a charged word that's going to get a reaction out of some people. But really, what he was actually describing was a main character who's flawed and sometimes has to be bailed out by his supporting characters. And in this case, the two of the more competent supporting characters were women. And whatever. I mean, it was well done. It wasn't done in any way that was insulting towards the male characters. If you still don't want to see it based on what some guy said in an interview, I'm not going to sit here and argue that battle all night. I'm going to tell you what was on the screen, and what was on the screen was a flawed protagonist who was supported by more competent characters, and that's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
that's Jack Burton in Big Trouble in Little China.
Yep,
Hollywood does that all the time. So it is known Khaleesi. I mean, that's my opinion.
Okay, actually, that's a you know what? It's funny. I don't care. Like, this is the thing. It's like, I one of my favorite movies of all time is Hunt for Red October. And that's a famous movie for having pretty much no women in it. There's like 2 scenes with women in the entire movie. It's well, guess what? It takes place on a submarine and in the military in the 80s. there's not a lot of women on.
I was
Actually,
gonna say two might be generous.
I know. I mean, well, no, there's actually
what, did Jim Greer have a secretary or something?
No, it's actually on the flight attendant on the plane.
Oh, there you go.
And then when he's in London, and it's actually Gates McFadden playing the wife with a British accent, and she's in it for one line. And that does
not pass the Bechdel test,
No,
apparently.
it does not.
Okay.
But the point is that makes sense because it's a military in the 80s before women were really allowed in it heavily, and on a submarine. So, and Russia. So that makes sense. You know, some of these movies, you know, same way if you're going to see a movie, I don't know, my kids are suddenly watching a lot of Orange is the New Black.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot of women in that because it takes place in a women's prison. You know, it's like, and there's some men, but it's mostly women because that's the setting. So in this case, you have a lead man who basically is fairly incompetent. You have a strong female barbarian, and they're a team. They're a team, and they work very well together, and they explain that. And then you have a half elf and a tiefling, and I'm like, oh, how dare you have a tiefling in there? I'm like, it's a tiefling. They don't freaking exist. You know, it's like half the characters in this movie aren't human. So,
well, and also,
who cares?
If you're talking about emasculated male characters, the paladin is actually one of the badass characters in the movie.
I didn't even get into that.
He plays more of a
male paladin.
Role. The paladin's badass.
Holy crap! Was he a badass in this movie? He was like. He had charisma to spare. And I was like, damn, was he good?
When we get into the more spoilery part, I will just say, for now, I will just say, I wish there would have been more of him. Would be one of my critiques of the movie. Not even a complaint, but he was one of the most kind of, you know, present and charismatic characters of the movie, and they didn't really work him in until about 40 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, he's barely in it, and he's so freaking good. I know, he was so good. He was scary good. I will also say, and then maybe we'll start getting the spoilers, is that and you've seen it in the trailer, the fat dragon. I need more fat dragons, man. That was good. And not only that, it was so good, the fat dragon. And I was like, you know what? That was genius. Because how many dragons have you seen in your life now?
Yeah, quit sending your dragons to the gym. They're
right. They're all these buff, big ass, strong, mean dragon. Like every single dragon. And this one,
just a chunky boy,
and fat and lazy. And I'm like. And he was great. It was great. I loved it.
It's a whole new horizon of the dragon
world.
It
was. And not only that, I'm like, I'm going to tell Mark that the dragon ancestry book, we got to add a fat dragon. Fat dragon in there, baby. Fat dragons. Because that thing was great. He was funny too. I was like, oh boy, here comes the fat dragon. And then I was like, oh my God, this is great. It was so well done. Let's see. We have any chats? Do like and subscribe. And I see very few likes because I guess everyone's so interested in what we have to say here. But if you have any questions, let me know. Let's see. Just reading. Oh, okay. Question. In your opinion, how do you think this will affect D&D as a tabletop platform? Well, I was thinking that. I was thinking, okay, D&D is going to get a really popular really quickly again because this was good enough that someone who sees this, who might have been on the fence or interested in D&D, is going to be like, oh my God, I want to check out what this D&D is all about because it was that good.
Yeah, I'm torn on that. I mean, I think there still may be a bit of a schism between the people who already know D&D and the general public, but they are going to drag their friends, and they are going to be people who hear it's getting good reviews,
right? And
some of that will transform into curiosity about the game, and some of those people will try the game. Yeah. And on the positive side, as much as all of us who are kind of neck deep in this world, think of things as Critical Role as big things, a major motion picture in theaters across the country is still a bigger deal to a lot of America and the world than all the live play podcasts put together.
Right.
And that's going to give D&D more visibility than it even already has. And so maybe that will work out. I don't know.
All right, I'm going to put a brand new font right on. I'm going to put it right there. Can you all see that? Spoilers! Let's make this nice and red so people know. I don't want people to accidentally see this and go in here and say, oh no, they're starting to spoil
Battle
the
stations. Oh wait, wrong genre.
Okay, I'm actually going to do the spoiler part. Here we go.
Okay.
Spoilers, everyone. Boom. There we go. I'm going to move that down.
The captain has turned on the spoiler light.
There we go. So everyone should see that now. Let me double check. It's live before we start getting into spoilers. Yes, I see it. It's white, but now it's red. Okay, now we're in the spoiler section, baby. Spoilers away. Okay, I'm gonna give everyone a few minutes here, at least a minute. If you're in this section, don't go in this section. Okay,
yeah, this is your if you don't want the movie spoiled, this is your chance to flee, I suppose.
Yes, and if you have any questions, real quick, I don't want to lose half the audience here, but now's the time to ask your question before we get to spoilers. Do I see any questions?
Yeah, it's kind of quiet. They're
quiet so far.
In anticipation.
Well, it looks like a lot of people in the audience actually watched the movie. But I'll tell you right, before I get into the spoilers, on a scale of 1 to 10, Jason, what do you give this movie?
Let's give it a nice solid 8. There's room for improvement. It's certainly not the best movie I've ever seen, but it's definitely. I mean, my son didn't go with me, so I'm going to go see it again with my son. So if I'm already talking about going and see it a second time, I
might have to see it in 2 weeks with you, and then I might see it when
you're in town. So yeah, that'll be 3 times or 2 times.
I know.
So yeah, it's getting my money more than once.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. I want to give it a 9, but it's not a 9. I'd say it's just 8.5. I agree. It's definitely a little uneven in little places. Like it's not a 10. Okay, it's definitely not a 10.
Well, when we get into the spoilers, there's one scene that just did nothing for me. I don't know why they included it, but
okay. But it was a good. It's close to a 9, 8, at least an 8.5. But
okay,
how about
a little higher than me, but that's
10,
all right.
10 for effort though. For effort, 10 out of 10.
Execution a little less. That's fair.
Yeah, okay. But boy, did they go! They went all in, baby.
Yeah,
it was good.
That's absolutely true.
Wait, I haven't seen the movie yet. I've been playing D&D for 30 years, so I wanted to see, should I take him? Yes, I brought my son, who's 16. He does not play D&D. He knows nothing about it. He doesn't care. He was a little like, ugh. And I said, just trust me. I won't take you to this movie if I didn't think you'd like it. And he was laughing his ass off. I don't know
if you're worried about parental advisory type stuff. There's a little bit of swearing and certainly fantasy violence in places, but nothing.
This could have been a PG movie, barely a PG-13, barely.
Yeah, it's pretty tame stuff.
This was very tame movie. It's one of the tamest. It's a Marvel. It's like a Marvel movie. Marvel. It has much swearing in it as a Marvel movie does, which is usually 1 or 2 thing here. How are the kids from the D&D cartoon? They weren't really kids. That's the funny thing. They showed them one time up close, and they looked like young adults. I'll put it that way.
Didn't really. I mean, that was
a throwaway joke.
The Easter egg value than for actual characters. I mean, you saw them. I don't know that they ever spoke a line.
No, they never said anything, and they're barely in it.
That was a deep cut for the fans, but
it was good though. It was a good deep cut, and if I didn't know about it ahead of time, I'd been like, "Oh!" So, all right, now we're going to the spoiler section. It looks like
that last non-spoiler question.
Oh,
it as we kind of covered that a little bit earlier. It's not totally rules inherent, but you like all the spells are real D&D spells, and and there's a lot of the D&D backstory and lore and stuff. So I mean, it's faithful. It's not an exact adaptation of the rules.
Yeah, no, it's not exact, but it's close enough. I put it this way: the spells were all real spells, and every spell they cast, I was able to probably name them all. And they even name a couple of them, and you know what they are. So they got all that right. If you like Forgotten Realms, and I do, they got all the towns in there. They got all the lore. Everything was right, and I was like, awesome. I mean, it was really good. And they did it just like a Marvel movie. Like a Marvel movie doesn't get everything exactly right, but it's close enough.
But on the other hand, they did not have, like, they had a scene where Michelle Rodriguez as the barbarian beats up like 6 guys, and they did not adhere to turn-based combat or anything.
Yeah, well, that's well, welcome to I was like one or I was thinking the whole time they must be minions or like CR1. That's the only way that would have worked. But so yeah, I mean, look, I don't even get into the whole. I'm trying to make this separate from the old SRD, OGL, Hasbro, WotC thing for now. We're just talking about the movie as a movie. That's all I'm talking about. So now let's get to the spoiler section. All right. Here we are. Now let me tell you.
Buckling of the seatbelt.
The virtual buckling of the seatbelt. There was one of the scenes, though, in this movie was an absolute perfect 10 out of 10 in every single aspect. Is the graveyard scene.
Oh my goodness.
Was so good. I couldn't believe. I was like, here's the thing. It was so well done.
You might have seen the clip with the graveyard scene, but that was just the start of the scene. And they actually continued, and they went with pretty much just about every way Speak with Dead could go wrong. And it was absolutely hilarious. And it went for like 4 minutes or 5 minutes, and none of it was wasted. It was all pretty just brilliant.
It was like, this is the thing. You and I and everyone has seen movies to death. I've seen it all. I've seen it done in every way, shape, and form. There were multiple scenes in this movie that I've never seen done, ever. And that Speak with Dead was so well done because first it was something that you would do as a D&D party. So I was like, that's fantastic. Like, I'm freaking, you steal that. That is so good in general role-playing terms. Second, as a transitional scene to get exposition of how to find out something, genius. And just the way it was filmed, that was Edgar Wright. They had all that the quick cuts, like one after another. Sam Raimi, I'm just like, oh my God, it was so well cut. It was so funny. They kept showing multiple dead people and how they died. You can see they're dead, and they're actually, when they died, then that's what they look like as corpses. And it is fantastic. And my theater was roaring with laughter throughout that entire scene. Because it goes on, it's like a good 10 minutes. Like that when you see the clip, that's just the beginning of the scene. It keeps going. There's a lot more to that scene. Since we
have put on the spoiler light, basically it's the idea that everything that can go wrong with Speak with Dead happens. First, you see, they posted the clip where he accidentally asks 5 questions.
Right.
But then they pick a guy, because the context is they're trying to find out what happened in a battle that happened 100 years ago.
Right.
And so first, they pick a guy who wasn't actually at the battle, and then they pick a guy who, was killed too early, and then they had one scene where they got in all the information they need, and they had questions left, and they didn't know what to do.
Well, that happened a couple of times,
and the guy's just sitting there saying, "Are you going to ask me any more questions?"
Well, no, right, because they can't leave until there's 5 questions, and I'm like, this is like you would do in a D&D game. So
that was one of the ones that captured the silly energy of the table best.
Right.
I mean, it's like
he's like, hey, wait, you still got 3 more questions, and I can't go back to being dead until you ask them. And he's like,
what's your favorite color?
What's your favorite color? It's like, what's your favorite animal? Do you like cats? I'm like, oh my God.
That's something you could actually see happen at a table. If someone got the information they needed on the second question, they might do that.
It was great. Yes. That scene was fantastic.
My goodness.
The heist on the cart with the portal, the portal.
Mhm.
I've never seen that before. I was like, that was really, really good and so D&D. I was like, I was very impressed. I was like, wow, that is a really, like, they were using, because, okay, it's a heist. There's a heist part to this movie. And the nice thing is that they used magic without breaking it. It's not like, oh, magic can do anything. It's like the Harry Potter version of magic. And then they just, Deus Ex Machina their way into a vault. No, they actually had rules. They had to follow the rules of magic, and then they did, and it was great. And it looked amazing. I mean, it looked incredible. I got to see that scene again.
The one thing I'm curious about is, does that magic item work? The staff, because that was, I mean, again, we're talking about there's basically a magic item which is kind of like the portal gun from Portal.
Yeah,
it puts a portal in one place, a portal in the second place. Yeah. It's called like the hither thither wand or something like that.
Yeah,
and I have to admit, I'm not up on my
I think it's a real thing. I've heard of it.
My source book,
I'd have to look
I don't
it
know
up.
If that was a real one. It certainly is
Too
in
lazy.
The theme of D&D.
Chat, you tell us if that's a real D&D thing or not.
I don't play
you tell
too much
me.
Pathfinder. I have to admit, I don't know whether that's actually.
So, by the way, if you just joined us, there's a big spoiler tag.
Yeah, sorry, we are into the spoiler.
We are in the spoiler section. So, if you just joined, we're in the spoilers. We did the first 35 minutes
or so,
are no spoilers. Now we're doing spoilers. So, I'll actually put a thing in there so that I'll adjust the name so people are aware. So, spoilers. I'll say, let's see. I'm going to adjust the text here. Whoops. Let me adjust my text.
In the meantime, here's a question of a spoiler / Easter egg for anyone else who might have seen the movie. The painting that they used for that, I swear this looks like Paul Scheer from, he was in The League. He also does the How Did This Get Made podcast. I don't know if any of you any other people, A, saw the movie and A, are familiar with Paul Scheer. Please feel free to tell me if you thought that painting was actually supposed to be Paul Scheer.
Yeah, I don't know if it was, to be honest.
It looked like him. I mean,
could. Maybe it could have been him, but here we go. There we go. Spoilers. First half, no spoilers. Whoops. Let's see. Someone wrote, listen to the prequel books. Actually, I have the prequel books. I've just started reading them.
I did not study up with the prequel books.
I just started them. Would you say that this vault was golden in color? It has nothing to do with the. Remember, okay, they've been working on this movie for like 4 years, so I guarantee that they just came out with a new book, Jason of D&D, where it like has heists in it.
Okay,
so I don't think it has anything to do with it. All movies, there's a hill I will die on, Jason. We've had this. I don't know if you saw this. I can state that every single movie, or let me rephrase it, 95% of movies are heists. They're all heists. There's an aspect of a heist in every movie. Always. There is. And it's funny, if you go back and start thinking about it, there always is a heist type thing. It doesn't always necessarily need they steal an item, but they always have to get into somewhere or be somewhere or go somewhere, and it has heist aspects to it.
I could believe that. I mean, or rescuing a person from somewhere.
Oh, there's always a heist.
So Star Wars, I mean,
always. There's always a heist. Every movie, every single one. There's a heist. It's incredible. Is there romance? Sort of. There is. Okay. Here is a super spoiler. Okay. Bradley Cooper, talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, shows up in this movie. And oh my God, was that good? It was so well done. How well done was that, Jay? I mean, did you like that part or no?
That was the scene that I thought could have been totally removed from the movie. So
well, they needed to. I disagree because they needed to show her background and what she was giving up, and then it did that was her motivation to go on this dangerous heist. Remember?
Okay, I guess, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I just didn't find it well acted, or I felt like it was like, okay, we want a small halfling character in here, so we're gonna just do this.
Yeah,
So
but
like,
the funniest
okay.
part was I saw that, and then you see his new wife is also
And
a
she's
barbarian, and I'm
yeah.
like, oh, they got a type.
Well, yeah.
I was
Yeah.
laughing. I was like, that was funny, man. I liked it.
But so the Chris there's no romance between the main character, Chris
No,
Pine.
zero.
There's not really romance, but the wizard and the sorcerer and the druid used to be a thing, and then they broke up, and maybe they hint that maybe they'll get back together at the end of the movie, but not. But there's not really any overt romance or anything like that.
Nope,
So,
not at all.
so I would, generally speaking, no romance in this movie.
The other thing is that they did a lot of things really well. So now we're up to the spoiler part. Is that the paladin Zenek
Zank or whatever.
Zank. It's like everyone had like, because he was very serious, and the way he talked, and it's just like you've seen this type, and he's a paladin.
There's a little bit of like Vulcan Mr. Data, that he's very literal and doesn't understand.
And he was Drax. He didn't understand humor. It's like I don't understand. It's a waste. It's like I'm like sitting there like, oh god, he's so good. And you have one of these in all your games. You always have this one person who's way too serious playing their character, and then there's the scene, and there's the scene where he is just going on and on in extreme detail of how to get around the trap. And even I'm just like, and everyone's like eyes are rolling because it's just going on, and then they set it off. Like he's not even through it, and they're like, "Oops!"
That's another moment that could happen at a table.
Of course it would.
You got your one player trying to outsmart the trap, and then John Stats would go and just trigger the trap.
Right. Like you're like, okay, this is what you do. You do this like LeBron Jenkins. He just doesn't care. He just goes right into it.
In our game, that was Seth spending 15 minutes trying to figure it out, and then John Stats just going ahead and triggering it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like that happens. That happens in our game all the time. It's like Seth will spend an hour at trying to understand how something works, and then John's like, enough talk, and then just walks right in because he's done. It's like, I can't take it anymore. Let's just see what the trap does. I'm not getting around it. Let's just do it. And that was very, very well done.
But again, the paladin, I wish he would have been
great.
The spoiler is that he doesn't stay with the party the whole movie. He comes in late, and then he decides that it's Chris Pine's quest to finish, so he's not going to go with them. So he's only in for about 20-30 minutes, and I wanted more of him. I wanted to, I wish he would have stayed.
He was great. And
once again, tip of the cap to the deep D&D players. He declared a spike target. He was going up against a group of assassins, and when he faced off against the chieftain, he like lit up his holy blade. So he declared a spike target. Like, yes.
They were
unite.
They were good, and there's so many little things. So like with the spells, like now we're getting the spoilers, and I'm like, there's a part in the beginning where they literally cast time stop, and I was like, oh my god, that's time stop, and then they say it's time stop. I'm like, they did time stop.
Yeah, the effect on that was pretty freaking cool.
Oh, the effect was excellent. They had so many things they did very well. All
of the wild shape stuff was pretty great.
Yeah, the wild shape stuff was excellent. The actress, she was an it. She's only like 20. She's definitely going to be up and coming. She was great. I actually liked the druid a lot. I liked everyone. Hugh Grant is fantastic because he's so swarmy, and he's got the best jokes. His jokes are good. I mean, it's in the trailer. He goes, "It's like I hate to see you die, so I'm gonna leave the room." I'm like okay, like there's it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then in terms of even the like even the bad guys, like they don't overstay their welcome. Like that might be a little knock is that they're barely, the bad guys are just bad to be bad. Although you know what, in all D&D games, that's what they, or what are they? They're just bad to be bad. Although
Yeah, if you're looking at nitpicky type things, the bad guys aren't particularly memorable. Well, Hugh
no,
Grant is, but he's not necessarily big bad.
yes,
But yeah, the main sorceress lady is kind of just
the Red Wizard, she's
if
fine.
she fills the suit. She's there to be the evil person doing the evil thing, but there's nothing that memorable about her.
Yeah, she's all right.
So,
The I'm trying to think. The assassins, they were good. They went to the Underdark. That was cool.
They're setting up the Dungeons
cool.
and Dragons 2 into the Underdark.
I love the Underdark, and when they went there, I was very excited.
Did they even kind of like? I was kind of I wasn't sure I caught it correctly. Was it just general or scenery, or was they actually sort of hinting that they passed the outskirts of a drow city?
That was not
because they looked over a cliff or whatever, and I saw like buildings in a distance, and I was thinking, could that be hinting at a drow city?
I don't think I'd have to see it again. I mean, I have read every Dritz book twice. I know the Underdark really well. That did not look like a drow type city.
Okay, I could be wrong.
No. It looked like a city. I actually said the same thing because they showed it, and
I processed.
I don't know exactly what it was.
It's like by the time my brain processed it, the glimpse was over. So I wasn't. I was like, did I see what I thought I saw? Like so.
Yeah, I have to see it again because it was very quick.
Yeah, I'll be sure to look at that next time.
John Gauss said the Paladin sword seemed to be a homage to the triple-bladed shooting sword from Sword and the Sorcerer. Was there anything further? I don't think it was. I think it was. I mean, maybe it was like a loose. I mean, if it was an homage, it was very loose because that was only part. It didn't triple shoot, but it did shoot.
Yeah, for context, it was like it was a sword, and the blade and the handguard kind of shot off.
Yeah,
and then he still had the handle and a smaller blade as kind of like a dagger-sized weapon.
Yeah. The other thing is they use a lot of practical effects in this movie, and you can tell, and I'm fine with that. Like a lot of the ancestries, they're people in costumes. They probably are people in costumes, and they touch up the CGI later, like to get rid of seams and stuff. But I had no problem with that, and I was like, they looked better. And there's a lot of weird ancestries. Again, very Guardians of the Galaxy. You had Dragonborn. There was was it?
They had an Aarakocra or whatever.
They had
people.
Yeah, they had a lot of people. It looked like I can never pronounce it.
Mezobarazon or whatever.
Yeah, Mezobarazon, which is the drow city where Dritz is from. And the funny thing is that it's not that they need more CGI. Actually, Jimi Hendrix, I was just watching a show about this, is that all movies have CGI, but the best use of CGI is where they use practical effects and then just use CGI to clean up the practical effects. As opposed to the old day where everything had to be practical, and if you messed up, and that was it, and there was nothing you could do about it, and when things are 100% CGI, then it's kind of too fake.
Yeah, like you see some of those like behind the scenes footage from like the Marvel movies, and it's all green screen.
Oh, it's all like green.
They basically just have the actors in a green screen the entire time, and have the CGI guys assemble the movie around
to the point of like in Doctor Strange, they're walking down Manhattan and that whole thing is CGI. I'm like, there's nothing real. There's nothing real in this movie. The whole thing is it's ridiculous. I mean, I'm like, okay, I guess like probably a little cheaper. As you're talking to someone who's rewatching Andor again, where the entire thing is all done in practical, like, and you can tell, and like when they're out and they're freezing cold in the middle of the freaking like Scottish hills.
Oh, and I am not a huge Tom Cruise fan as Tom Cruise, but I do respect the hell out of his commitment to still make movies mostly with practical effects.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. And on top of that, I mean, that's one of the reasons Top Gun was such a huge hit, because those were practical effects. And yeah, they use CGI to clean things up, but they're getting thrown around in those planes, and you know they're getting thrown around in those planes, and it was impressive.
And I mean, you can't really do Fat Dragon with practical effects,
right?
But they did strike a balance between trying to do some stuff with practical and then obviously CGI where they had.
I'll tell you why it looked great. It's that, and this is what I kept saying, they did a lot of things in this movie I've just never seen before. I've seen 10,000 dragons. Okay. We've all seen 10,000 dragons at this point. We know what they do. We know how they look. We know how they act. It's boring. Okay. When I first saw that fat dragon, I thought it was stupid in the trailers. I saw the fat dragon and I was like, first they make fun of it. They're like, it's like, did this dragon eat the other one or something like that? They said something very funny about him being pudgy. They call him the pudgy dragon, actually, the pudgy dragon.
That's a pudgy dragon.
Because he was so pudgy, he was really silly and did things I've never seen before, like sliding around on his belly.
Yeah, there's a point where they're like on a bit of a slope, and he just kind of rolls down the slope.
He's just rolling around. And I'm like,
you go on with your bad self, pudgy dragon.
I was loving it. I was like, I've never seen this before. And that's the thing. I was a lot of stuff in this movie I just never saw before. And that is half of the fun. Like, wow, this is new. My brain is firing on cylinders because I'm finally like, I'm awake. I'm seeing things I've just never seen. Yeah. Okay, some of this, Sean's saying some of the practical effects were not great. You're completely right. Some of them were a little rough. I don't care. Good. At least they're trying. I'd rather have something rough that looked a little than having something so streamlined and fake that you know it's fake. You know? So I did not care. Right. The paladin jumped into Dragon's head. Some of the CGI, that actually was not a great scene. When he jumps, the paladin jumps on it. They got the physics a little wrong on that, but you know, it's fine. It still was good. I do like even how they escaped a lot of the places. They had very, very creative ways to get out. And it's funny, the intro of the movie is weird. There's like a 15-minute intro telling you the backstory of the characters, which you just don't see. I'm like, wow.
I have to admit, I was a little bit late. I missed the first minute or two of the movie. You
didn't miss anything the very first minute. The first minute was they were
unloading the orc at the prison. So I didn't miss more than a couple seconds of it. Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
Or the half orc or the orc. Yeah.
Yeah. But they were in Icewind Dale, which I loved. I was like, they're in Icewind Dale, and they said it. They showed the map, and then they go to Neverwinter, and most of it takes place in Neverwinter. They talk about Baldur's Gate. They're talking about everything in the nine realms. And I was like, it was very good. It was very good. I mean,
yeah.
I'm trying to think. I mean, we're being spoilery. I'm not like, we're not going to heavy spoilers, but like we're going like loose spoilers. I'm not trying to tell you exactly what happens.
Yeah, not going to Rocky Horror Picture Show the entire movie for you.
yeah. But overall, they're just, I can't, I'm sitting here stunned at how good this movie was. And the best part, it was just, it was very, very funny. And it was funny throughout and funny in lots of different ways. And which is also the Marvel brand of humor. Because like Chris Pine is like the snarky, Star-Lord. And then you have the Paladin, who basically is Drax. Or you could even say, you see, that's Michelle Rodriguez. I have a feeling in the second movie, she's going to be more Draxian. Like, she's going to be more of a Drax. She was supposed to be the straight man, but she got very few jokes. She only got like 2 or 3 jokes in the whole thing. And I feel like she really needed more. They
gave her the pudgy dragon line.
So. I know, they did. Simon was He was okay. I mean, I think he'll be better in the second movie.
Well, it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's like I did. He left me a little cold, but then again, that was because that's what his character was supposed to be. Because his character kind of his was the character that was supposed to lack confidence and find himself during the movie.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times he was kind of wishy washy and like, okay,
Yeah.
that sort of character. I'm not a huge fan of, but I mean, he still played it reasonably well. I just happen to not be a particular fan of that kind of character.
Yeah. And
So.
and also the power base was way off because at the end of the movie, they're casting Meteor Swarm.
Yeah, he got several levels
Yeah, like
in the course of a 2-hour
yeah.
movie.
Yeah, they're all like casting 9th, 10th level spells, and I'm just like, yeah. I mean, you got to. I mean, what are you going to? They did have chain lightning, which I liked. They saw chain lightning.
People aren't going to come for a sequel if you have them run out of spell slots halfway through the first movie.
I know. Well, they have chain lightning, which was great. They have time. They have prestidigitation. They had the one reverse gravity. I forgot the name of that spell, but that one, that's a good one. I like
a little
that.
bit of produce flame.
Yeah, produce flame. That actually was definitely in there because they had a whole bunch of flames going out. I'm trying to think what else did they have. They had invisibility, obviously. They had Mordekainen's runes. Remember that? That was good. Oh, they had like Bigsby's crushing hand in there. There's a lot of good spells in there.
Yeah.
The Holga's big. The whole thing about shape shifting into a deer. Okay, that was her best line. That was the one. There was shield. There definitely was shield.
For those of you who haven't seen yet, if you want that little bit spoiled, there's a whole debate about how they're going to infiltrate the castle with Wild Shape to do like a recon mission. And at one point, Holga suggests, well, she could be a deer, and then they're all riding her for, well, why would you have a deer in a castle? And then as the druid is trying to escape, she like goes through like 6 or 7 different forms during the escape. And at one point, she changes into a deer. And that was one of those places where the whole crowd cracked up. And then
it's like
afterwards,
so
she's like, she was a deer.
That was good. She was a deer. And I didn't see magic missile. There definitely was shield. That was actually used. There was also sphere of invulnerability, I believe, was in there. I mean, they got the spells. I mean, it looked great. They really got, and the monsters. They barely like almost all the monsters you see in the trailer is pretty much how much the monsters are in the game. In the movie.
It was not monster heavy. I mean,
very light of monsters.
Like, I mean, the intellect devourer was just kind of a walkthrough. It just
that was funny though.
Here's an intellect devourer. I mean, obviously since it's in trailers, this isn't even really spoiled, but you got like during the big, run through the maze, you got like a displacer beast, gelatinous cube, mimic.
Yeah.
And those play the role of being pieces of like set pieces in that scene or whatever. But
the displacer beast mechanic was excellent because I have never understood how the displacer beast worked. And now I do. And that was great.
I didn't know if it was just supposed to be like blurry or whatever,
they had blur.
They had blur.
They had blur. That was another spell they used.
But I didn't know if like the displacer beast was supposed to be just blurry or there's supposed to be like multiple copies in front of you. And actually, that was a really good way to show the displacer beast.
Yeah,
is basically like a holographic projection of a second displacer beast in a different position. And so that was like, all right. So cool.
Now we're getting to. I'm not going to do super heavy spoilers. We're actually still, these are like kind of light spoilers, but the fresh cut grass, do I think it was related to Critical Role? Maybe, maybe not. I think it was just something that anyone can relate to because everyone likes it. And it's just a funny use of prestidigitation. It was a joke. Seriously. It was just a joke.
The callback later on was pretty hilarious.
Yeah. Did the Red Wizard use Animate Stone or Polymorph on the dragon statue to make it come alive? I believe that was Animate Stone.
I think it was an actual statue. So yeah, and it
yeah.
turned back into a
Polymorph
statue.
is you change one creature into a different creature. Animate Stone is because it went when she got disrupted. So she, in theory, was using her concentrate action to keep it going, and then when she gets disrupted, it stops animating. So I believe that's an Animate Stone type spell. And I don't know if exactly. I don't know the D&D rules as well as Pathfinder, so I'm just using my general knowledge. Let's see. Tiger Eyes. I was listening to my car ride from family. Got to say, it's definitely not sound like my kind of movie. Look, it might not be, and that's the thing. It's as simple as this. The easiest way to know if you liked Guardians of the Galaxy, you'll like this movie.
You're in the ballpark. Yeah,
that's it. That's really the easiest way. If you didn't like Guardians of the Galaxy and you thought it was too silly, you'll probably not like this movie. You know, it's a goofy, silly, very funny comedy movie in fantasy. It is a lot of comedy. A lot. We're talking not like the occasional. Like you think about like a Marvel movie. Marvel movies have a couple of jokes. I'd say the Guardians of the Galaxy have a lot more jokes. This thing was kind of wall to wall. Yeah, this thing was wall to wall jokes, especially the second half. There's a lot. I mean, a lot of jokes in this.
Has Jonathan entered the chat yet?
Let's see, animated object. Yeah, it might have been animated object type thing, but it was an animation. It was like an animate stone, animate object. It was one of those type spells where you take it and you animate it. But the gelatinous cube. Oof, that was creepy as hell, man. It's funny. I always think gelatinous cubes is kind of fun, but after seeing the way they handled it, it was like, yeah, it was actually kind of scary and disgusting. Quite frankly, I was like, yeah, kind of nasty that cube.
Yeah, I like the cube though.
The cube was really good. The cube was really good.
It's always been low key one of my favorite. It's always been low key one of my favorite monsters. So just having it in the movie,
it's my favorite.
Like,
yeah. The Guardians. So the Hobbit. Yeah, this is not a Hobbit type comedy. It's not even the Lord of the Rings type comedy. The comedy is, it's very James Gunn. It's very the Suicide Squad. If you like the Suicide type comedy. Okay, you know what it is? You know what it is? Do you like the type of comedy at a D&D table where everyone is kind of just ripping on each other and they're all friends? Well, that's what you got. That's the comedy. It's because they all are constantly ripping on each other, and they're just like having jokes, but yet they're all in it together, and
they still get the job done when the time comes. Yeah. So
yeah. It was now. Did it do a lot of world building? No, but like that's the thing. I see some of the comments people are saying it wasn't that great compared. They didn't really go into the Sword Coast and they didn't really talk about Forgotten Realm. I'm like, yeah, but they don't need to because that's not the point of the movie. The point of the movie is characters, and they are going. Again, the closest analogy is Star Trek 2009, where you are trying to make a movie that appeals to everyone, while still being true to the source material, while still being true to the world building, without having to go heavy into it. And
cynically, that's what you'll get in the sequels. It's like you'll open up more of that world and look. I mean, Star Trek 2009 didn't have any Klingons in it. So okay, it doesn't mean that they're not there. It just means they didn't get to them. This was just establishing about who is James Kirk and how did he get to be on the Enterprise. So this is kind of the same. I mean, and okay, if that's if you're generally not a fan of sequelitis and picture movies that are designed to spawn multi-picture franchises. That's the way Hollywood's going, and I don't know that there's any any way to shift that. I mean, but it still works as a standalone story. I mean, it's not like it's not like they left major things unresolved or anything.
They left just the perfect amount hanging. Like there is the main bad girl actually, and that's the other thing I like. It's not one of these like, ooh, is that the bad guy? No, that's like they tell you in Act 1, like Scene 2, Act 1, here's the bad guys, and it. Like they don't waste. I hate movies that do that. It's like, here's the good guys, here's the bad guys, go. And then
we don't need a twist. We don't need
no,
we don't need a third act surprise.
Nope.
We just
nope.
Here's your movie.
It was right. It was very like, here's the good guy, here's the bad guy. And then the entire movie was them putting together the party. And while they're doing the party, they're going on a heist. And then my favorite part of the entire movie that we're now going to be using forever, Jason, in every D&D game in history is, okay, we got a plan C. It's like, well, isn't plan C the same as plan A? Plan A has a taint on it. Now it's plan C. Now we got a plan D. It's like, wait, wasn't plan D plan B? It's like B and A, they both have taints on it. So I'm renaming them C and D. And I was like, oh my God, we are doing that forever.
I think we had an episode of our show where we were out to like plan F or G.
We did, yes.
Like, yes. Oh my God. Oh, that was good.
That was so, I'm just sitting there like, that's when I was like, God bless them. They did it. I was like, that's it. I'm done. This movie is an A. I was like, they got, and that's the thing. It's like, that hits on so many levels. Like, it's like, everyone thought that was funny. You don't have to be a D&D player to think that's funny.
But D&D players get an additional little kick off of it because it's something they've experienced.
Of course. And then I'm like, and they're going to be saying that. Like, that's what I say. Meme worthy, like that's gonna be a meme. It's like,
I make the plan. Well, so what happens after we start doing it? Because you've already made the plan. Well, sometimes the plan goes wrong. So you make plans that go wrong.
It's like, no, it's more than that. I know, but that scene when they were like, it's plan C. They're like, isn't plan C the same as plan A? He goes, plan A was tainted. Now it's plan C. I was like, okay. Because how many times have you done that? And then the plan D, they're like, oh, we got plan D. It's like, that was the same as B. Oh, like, yes, but it was tainted. It's like plan A and B, they're tainted. Now they're C and D. I was like, oh, God. Yeah, and the, let's see, when did you say started combat in the movie? Oh, they didn't say roll for combat when they started the movie, when they started combat. No, they did not.
No, this was not roll for combat, or it was not Mortal Kombat where they actually like had all the little video game noises in there. Dude,
in the first Mortal Kombat, when they start fighting, you hear them go Mortal Kombat, and then they kill them and go fatality. I was like, I know they actually do that. They did do pretty good stuff with the weapons, even. Like with the big axe, like it starts changing throughout the movie.
Well, there was a low key fun scene where where Michelle Rodriguez is the barbarians battling in like an armory room, and she's like just grabbing various weapons and just clearly she's got multiple proficiencies.
Yeah, that was good. That was the other thing. Like the fights were great, and the camera work from the druid was fantastic. Whenever the druid was on, they had really good camera work for her. Like,
yeah, particularly that escape scene where it's all like
very well done.
There's like a whole running scene where the druid is escaping and changing forms as she goes, and going through different parts of the castle and the outside town, and it's all just. It was a wild, fun ride for that scene. It was like, yeah, man, that's. That was like worth the price of the ticket there.
So any loose end that can be connected to the Baldur's Gate game, if they plan to start, maybe. Mostly the Red Wizards. But so what they did is, I didn't finish my thought, is that they had the bad girl who's a Red Wizard, but she's only like a junior Red Wizard. There's like the main bad guy. And you can tell, like, okay, the Red Wizards will be the bad people in the sequels. We have the Harpers will be the good people, and that's all from Dungeons and Dragons. And then they're gonna definitely get more into the lore and the background and what the Red Wizards are trying to do. So that was so they did a lot of good setup, because the setup was done
somebody else seemed to recognize the name Zaz Tam or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like that's the big bad.
Yeah, the big bad.
But this was kind of one of the hello, I'm new, but I'm learning intern Red Wizards. So,
but they had the scene of Darth Vader talking to Palpatine. Remember, like she is talking to him.
Oh right, yeah,
and so there is a part in the movie where it's like, oh yeah, like and so they do set up like there's a bigger bad, and even they're like, what is their goal? Like, why are the Red Wizards trying to do what they do? And they kind of explain it, but not enough. But I was fine with that because I was like, you know what? If this gets sequels, God bless them, man. Does Chris?
No, he's a low magic bard. Actually, he's a no magic bard.
He's a no magic bard. He was more like an investigator with a couple of levels of bard. That's what he seemed like.
He barely does any fighting at all. I mean, he occasionally hits people with his loot, and it's like, okay.
There was baby rust monsters.
Oh right, the little rust monsters fighting over the piece of metal. It's like, and that wasn't even. That was like flavor as you walked past.
Yeah,
that wasn't even a plot point.
Yeah. No, he did not do illusion. The illusion.
No, the sorcerer cast the illusion.
Did that. Yes. No, he did. He did. He was. He was Mr. Charisma. He was Face from the A-Team. That's what he
there
was.
You go.
No, he was. He was Face. I mean, he did fight a little, but he uses loot to fight. Okay. Oh, Royler. Spoiler question: do you think the '80s kids survived their cameo from the D&D video game? No, they died.
Probably true.
No, they totally died.
That's true. They still. I mean,
100% died.
When the big bad sets off their plot, they would have been at ground zero.
They died. So they're dead. They're dead. They all died. I hate to say it. Unless someone opened up that cage, they're dead.
Yeah.
So sorry. I'm trying to think. I mean, we covered almost everything without like.
And they did not have the little. They did not have the unicorn with them. So.
Oh yeah, Uni was not there. Uni would have been funny.
Uni was not part of the party.
No. But you can tell they weren't really kids because, and this is in the clip, they have the barbarian. I forgot his name. And in the cartoon, he was the youngest one. He was like 8. And they show him, and I'm like, that's no 8-year-old.
Yeah, they aged them all up into like teenage / young adults.
Yeah, they were all much older, which they just had to do. But yeah, it was really good. I mean, I can't believe how freaking good it was. The end credits are really well done. Really, really, really well done. I won't even say what Bobby, right? Bobby was the barbarian.
Bobby was the barbarian, yes.
It's been a long time since I've seen that.
I remember Eric was the paladin.
Yeah, I remember Eric.
The cowardly paladin.
Was it like Tanya or Tamara or something was the acrobat?
I don't
remember. The dungeon master teleported the kids away off screen. That's probably true. That maybe they did survive if the DM came in and just took them away. And then Venger shows up.
I was going to say, but then Tiamat shows up because Tiamat shows up. Appearance.
Yes. Tiamat is like the highest level dragon in the game.
Just to take out one party of young adults or teenage kids.
So to go on a complete side tangent, are you ready? There was an ending to the D&D cartoon from the 80s that was written but never filmed. And supposedly, what was the guy's name? Venger? Was he the bad guy? I think
it sounds right. Yeah, it's been so long since I ever watched that.
Venger was supposed to be the dungeon master's son. Believe it or not. That was like
okay.
I know. You can look it up. It's actually you can look it up, and it actually does have an ending to it. I do remember
a lot of drugs taken in the 80s.
I know a lot of drugs in the 80s. People. The other thing is, do you remember there's a scene they do get home, and then Venger follows them through the portal, and then he starts destroying the amusement park and like blowing up, like he starts blowing up like the carousel and the Ferris wheel and the roller coaster. He's like, he's casting spells, and I'm just like, and they're like, oh my god, he's gonna destroy everything. We can't let him loose. Let's go back. And then they go back, and And then he follows them. But I can only imagine the next day the people come in,
show up for the work at the amusement park. They're like, "What happened here?"
It's like all the rides have it looks like they all exploded. It's like I was thought about it. I'm like, what? How do they explain that?
Our insurance company is not going to be happy with this.
I know. It was it's pretty crazy. Oh, the people are now, of course, helping us out. Diana the acrobat, Sheila the thief, Hawk the ranger, or Hawk the slayer.
But Presto, what's that actually his name?
God, he was terrible. I hated
Not
Presto.
Kevin or something?
Hey, no, it was Presto. I hated Presto. I hated Presto.
Boy.
And the acrobat I didn't like because it wasn't a class. Like they had to invent like acrobat. There's no acrobat.
Was it? I mean, or they added it as like a subclass. Of
later I think they added it after, but there obviously was a thief, a ranger, a magician. They didn't really have a magician, but they didn't want to use wizard or sorcerer, so they had to use magician.
Yeah, they were still trying to work their way around the whole satanic panic thing. So they went with magician.
Yeah, they had to
pull a rabbit out of his hat.
Yeah, they had to really like calm that down a little. But they were a good spoiler. I'm trying to think if there's any good Easter egg. I'm trying to think if there's any other really good Easter eggs in there. The whole intro was like an Easter egg.
I still want to find out if the director has any connection to Paul Scheer, because I swear that painting looked like Paul Scheer. But
I gotta look at it again. I wasn't looking that closely.
Yeah,
I wasn't looking that close. But I mean, we I don't know if we can go 2 hours and 15 minutes to talk about a 2 hour and 15-minute movie, because there's only so much movie to talk about.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
But the gist is,
we can. I just don't know if they'd find it that interesting after a while.
Oh, Hank the Ranger, not Hawk the Ranger. I said Hawk. I meant Hawk the Slayer. You know what? Because I was thinking
Hawk was the guy in Buck Rogers in the 25th century.
Oh my God. With
entirely different thing.
It's like with Professor Ludu or whatever his name was around his neck over Tiki. Remember Tiki and the Professor?
Twiggy and the Dr. Theopolis.
Oh, Dr. Theopolis, who was literally just a blinking face.
Yeah.
Oh God. Welcome to the 70s, kids. There was a lot of drugs being done in the 70s. And people were just like, hey, let's just put a robot and have a talking face around
carrying a smaller robot with him.
Right? Yeah, a robot with another robot. And the other robot,
C-3PO and R2-D2.
That was what they were. Like, we can't really copy R2-D2 and C-3PO, but we have one that's really smart. And we have one that just talks and beeps and boops. And instead of it being gold, we're going to make ours silver. And instead of the one that walks, he's the one who's going to beep and boop, and the other one
there was a whole series of conversations with the lawyers to see how close they could get without making any trouble.
The thing about drugs in the 70s, if you guys watch Buck Rogers, I still can't believe some of those 70s TV shows were legal. Because
I was going to say, drugs a lot, clothing for female characters, not so much.
Not only not so much, but practically see-through on network TV in the 70s. And it was pretty disgusting, actually. I felt bad as a kid. I was like, whoa,
it was a different time, people.
This is kind of gross. I was like, yikes.
The refrigerator test. I think it will. I think
oh God, yeah.
I feel like the jokes are still sitting. The jokes are sticking to my ribs, and I'm still kind of smiling at them. Like 5 hours later, 6 hours later.
I loved it. Yeah.
The mid-credit scene. They go back to the Speak with Dead scene one more time. I won't tell you exactly how.
Yeah, we won't go into it.
It's like I'm trying to walk a balance.
We're talking spoilers, but
I don't want to necessarily go line by line through individual scenes. But they go back to the Speak with Dead scene one more time.
You like my 70s drug out TV executive voice? Yeah, we need some robots, and we gotta do something now that Star Wars is so popular. We need Buck Rogers.
That's great, man. But how about this? How about he's got the one lady who's like, his buddy in the military. But what if we have like a real hoe who hardly wears any clothes, who like chases him around and tries to kidnap him all the time?
God. And those 70s shows.
You're supposed to say, "Oh, I love it," in your TV exec
Oh,
voice.
sorry. I was just thinking about it. I'm just like, yeah, Hawk. What the hell was Hawk all about in Buck Rogers? You know, he's Birdman. Hey, we got this guy, this half man, half bird.
Precursor to furry culture, apparently. I don't know.
No, it's like that's where furries got the idea from. Like, hey, man, half bird, and he looked good. He looked good. Oh, the 70s and the 80s. The 80s weren't much better. Although,
but yeah, I'm already going to have to watch this a second time.
Yeah.
If nothing else, like I said, I said very early in the broadcast, my son plays D&D, so this is right up his alley, and he'll want to see it. So I'm going to go see it with him at some point.
I loved it. I loved it. It's gonna do very, 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 very well. It's gonna probably get a ton of buzz. I think it's gonna make 1 million sequels, and I can't wait. I'll be the other thing is, like, everyone was 100% in on this movie. They Not only that, did they have this in your theater? Oh, you were late. In the beginning of the movie, before the movie started, they actually had the cast thanking everyone for being in seeing the movie in the theater. And
I mean, I've seen that for other movies.
Yeah, I've seen that. They're starting to do that
for this one.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was nice. And it was like, that's the thing. It's like, that's one of the things about the Marvel movies, is that whenever they did the press tours, they always do it together. And they seemed like they were dedicated and into it. Because think about a Marvel movie, especially in the beginning, it's like, ooh, this is so silly. They're playing like superheroes. I mean, that was a tough sell. I mean, sure, Batman, but they were playing the D list, the C and the D list superheroes. They weren't playing Spider-Man and Superman, we're playing
most of those
Guardians
Marvel
of the Galaxy.
They were like, particularly Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. I mean, that was, once again, a lot of drugs in the 70s. I mean,
I mean, there's just they completely are 150% dedicated to this. They are all going for it. And it's a small thing, but you feel it on the screen.
Yeah, that's. I mean, we talked about this when we were talking about this in the preview show. But you can somewhat elevate and salvage mediocre material. And I'm not saying this was mediocre material if you really commit to the bit and you try to have fun with it. Yeah. And I originally made that point in regards to Cocaine Bear. But and this was better material than Cocaine Bear, but you get the feeling they really, committed to it, and they weren't just looking down on it for a paycheck. And from some of the interviews I've seen, they seemed like they got along, and it was a happy set, and that also, that also matters. I mean, you look at these Marvel movies where the core Avengers guys seem like they're like constantly like up at each other's Twitter and stuff.
They all play fantasy football together.
Yeah, and they're like getting together for dinner and putting it on their Instagram, and they seem like they're really getting along as people, and that that makes it easier to do the work, and that translates on the screen. So
there were no direct hints that this was going to be a sequel, but there was a lot of dangling threads, and it was very much the same way like Star Wars was. The first movie was a standalone movie, but you knew there was a lot more going on behind the scenes. I mean,
the big bad red wizards are still going to be there.
Yeah.
They teased the existence of the Underdark, so you've got potential Underdark.
Yep.
The Paladin leaves, so there could be something that brings the Paladin back to the fold. I mean,
he's coming back.
There's no overt, this is where the next sequel is going to go, but Hugh Grant's character is still dangling in the wind.
He's still around, and he was great. Great.
So there's no direct, this is going to be the sequel, but there are certainly opportunities to pursue.
I guarantee Hugh Grant will be back, and he'll be we need him to do this new heist.
Well, he's going to be Loki.
Oh, he's totally Loki. He is Loki.
He's going to be the guy who starts as the villain slash and then sort of gradually morphs into an anti-hero or something.
Yep. He's totally the axe beaks. They were in there. Those were the birds. I like those. Everyone says about them end credits. Did you stay to the I didn't stay to the very, 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 very end. I left after the mid scene credit, but there was
I stayed all the way. There was no end credit scene.
Okay. So there is.
So you can you could go. Well, you can leave after the mid credit.
There's after it ends. There's animated credits, which are fantastic. Really well done. Really, really, really well done. I like when they do that. It was very Mannequin-esque. Remember Mannequin? Jesus. Yeah, I know. But it did have that vibe. And then there's a sequence which was excellent. And then it goes to the regular scroll credits, the crawl credits they call them. So
how about this, man? We're gonna have a movie about a guy who works at a department store, and the mannequin comes to life, and he has sex with her. Isn't that great? Sorry,
I saw that in the theater. I saw that in the theater. What do you want from me, buddy?
Different time.
And we have King Control, and we have who was the guy?
Andrew McCarthy.
Andrew McCarthy. And we have lots of 80s music. And it's basically it's a 90-minute movie, but it's really 45 minutes of video.
Taylor was on minute 13 of his 15 minutes, but he was sort of famous at the time.
It's like, we'll just stretch it out. It's like, yeah, but the script's only 40 pages.
And the mean cop from Police Academy.
Oh, God. And you know what? That was such a big hit. We're making Mannequin 2.
Oh, God.
That I did not see. I did not.
Master and Commander. Yeah, I saw
Where'd that come from?
That's a little out of the blue, but that is a good movie.
Okay, great movie. I've seen it 5,000 times. It's on TV all the time. I actually
just watched it a week ago. I was looking for something to watch. I was like, Master Commander. There's a lot. It was one of those things where there's one of those things where I didn't remember it being that great. But a lot of people have since said, it's great. So I decided to rewatch it. And it actually is a pretty good movie.
Oh, that's also another movie that fails the test. There's only one woman in that entire movie. And that is when they're trading with the natives.
Yeah.
And they show a woman. That's it. That's the only scene with a woman in it.
There you go.
We were talking about that earlier, if people don't remember. Oh, they like your Jason's high voice too, Jason. Yeah. Hey, we got to do voice. You have Bane, and now you have the 70s writer.
Now we both have coked out Hollywood producer voices.
We have coked out Hollywood. Hey, man.
One of these days we'll have to do an entire show just as the coked out Hollywood producers.
Well, we keep this up. There's more good movies coming out. We can keep doing this. You and I've talked about doing a movie review movie review show, guys. Hey, guys, you want us to do more movie reviews? There's actually a lot of really good movies coming out. We got the new Shazam movie coming out. What else do we have? That got really good reviews. We got I don't know, John Wick 4 coming out, which that's a 3-hour movie, by the way.
John Osborne. John Osborne makes the point. I think them doing this early preview is a show of confidence. And actually, we talked about that more in the show we did last week, the preview show. But yeah, when movies do releases this far in advance, they think / know they've got a hit on their hands.
Oh, this was a hit. This had a hit all over.
They don't do this if they're expecting it to just kind of die in the first couple weeks.
Yeah. So, the Super Mario Brothers movie, Jason. I think we might be calling up. We might be getting called up to the big leagues.
It's a me, Mario.
Oh, we got to do Paint. Owen Wilson as happy little trees.
I mean, it's kind of a weird niche to sit in, but I could saddle up for movie reviews.
You and I. Well, wait. First of all, you and I have seen as many movies as I guarantee everyone I know sits there thinking they've seen a lot of movies. You have no idea how many movies Jason and I have seen.
We've seen a lot of movies.
We are at whole other levels of movies. Okay, we can start naming movies that no one has ever even heard of, and we saw these in the theater, my friend. That's we've seen everything, and I mean everything. Yeah, I would definitely love to do some more movies. Yeah, the Married John Wick 4. There's a lot. And it's a good excuse for me to go see movies in the theater. I'd love to do that. We could do that, Jason. We can start doing our movie reviews.
If you want to start throwing something like that together, I might participate. Yeah, Shazam. I'm leery. I feel like that's the sort of movie that one movie was good enough, and I'm not sure it needed a sequel. And as Kay Steinwand mentions, the whole shakeup with the DCEU and Black Adam kind of failing,
Ugh,
you just don't
terrible.
know where that movie's going anymore. I mean, so it's like you don't know why you're watching it, and you don't know what it's going to offer that the first one left unresolved, and it's like, okay, sure. I mean, so I mean, I may yet
wait,
see it.
Channel said, wait, Steven and Jason, movie reviews with these great voices? Where do I subscribe? Right here. Roll for Combat. You can subscribe right here.
If you get an envelope and you fill it with $100 bills and just send it to us, we'll make it happen. We'll make the magic happen.
Yeah, if you want, we can get a lot of great drugs. I mean, we can go to the massage parlor. I mean, we could just go out to dinner with our wives. Yeah, that's it. With all that cash you send us, and make sure they're non-sequential, unmarked bills, and send them to P.O. Box 1314, Pueblo, Colorado 10583. Yeah, just send that on over, and we'll do some of those.
That's where my dealer lives.
Yeah. and just say Chaz sent you, okay? I'll be Chaz. Who are you gonna be? I'm Chaz Palmentero. I'm a coked up. I got a lot of coke problems, and I do a couple of shrooms on the side. But
I think there has to be a Brett. I think there has to be a Brett producing some movies.
Brett and Chaz's movie reviews.
We got enough chicks in this movie. Need chicks.
Oh, God.
Oh my goodness!
I don't know. I think we might get canceled if we try to do too much 70s.
Gotta be careful with the 70s. We use the 70s guys in moderation.
Although who we can use the 70s movies with? Oh my God! I didn't know why I didn't think of this. Chris Payne. Hey, you know who we should hire? Remember the Chips back in the 70s? Remember that great show? Who was that actor in Chips? Remember there was and the other one's like, it's like, oh, you mean oh wait, who was in Chips?
Eric Estrada.
Eric Estrada. No, not Eric Estrada. The other guy. It's like, I don't remember. The blonde guy. Yeah, the blonde guy. That one. He has a son. Chris Payne or Pine or something. We got him in there. We got him in the mix. See, we brought it back.
There you go. Everything comes full circle.
It does. Well, he's because that's his father. His father is... what was his father's name?
Was it Larry Wilcox?
Yeah, Larry Wilcox, who was...
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Chris Pine. Oh, yeah, you didn't know? Yeah, that's his dad from Chips.
Right. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Now you think about it, look at it. They do look kind of similar.
Yeah, now that you say it, I can sort of see a resemblance. But yeah, you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, well, it was bigger when he was in Star Trek and he was starting out, because then they were talking about it a lot, about the chips.
Now it's like just kind of a fact of life. Yeah.
Radical
tubularity.
Well, radical tubularity, that's the 80s, my friend. That ain't no 70s, okay? And both Jason and I were alive in the 70s and 80s, unfortunately. My 70s, I was a kid in the 70s. I was a teenager in the 80s. The 80s I know quite well. The 70s are a little vague. I mean, I do remember the Sonny and Cher show and Hee Haw on TV. And I do remember things like Name That Tune. Remember all that? And there was a lot of variety shows back then. A lot. And the Muppets, we used to watch those a lot.
You have an actual question. Steven, any RPG adventure path you would like to be cast as a film of any game, just not in medieval fantasy? Giovanni Chronicles, Yellow King.
Oof. Oh, any adventure path you'd be like cast as a film of any. Well, that's really hard. believe it or not, the easiest one by far, and I know you'll agree, Jason, is Agents of Edgewatch, because Agents of Edgewatch is based off heist movies from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, Agents of Edwatch kind of borrows all these Hollywood tropes for cop movies, anyways.
Yeah.
So kind of turning it around and turning it back into a movie might be something that would work.
It'd actually be very easy to do.
I was waiting to see you say Age of Worms, since you seem to say
no. I love Age of Worms, but Age of Worms is too complex.
Wouldn't make a good movie.
Okay. It would make a good miniseries, but it's a bad movie. 3's Company. Ooh, God, that was nasty. Three's Company is so disgusting if you watch that now. It is unwatchable. Fantasy Island, unwatchable. Love Boat, you know what? They're all unwatchable.
You see, he's going to pretend he's gay to get cheap rent. But he's secretly going to actually thirst after both of his roommates.
I know, yeah. So he's two roommates, and they don't wear any underwear, and they're always wearing super, super tight outfits, and they're always jumping around.
And the landlord who's just trying to protect
the landlord won't let him live there because an unmarried man can't live with two unmarried women, but they pretend he's gay, and then he thinks it's okay. And so he's always in the apartment for some reason, because, that's what landlords do. They hang out with their tenants all the time. And, and he's always making jokes about him being gay, because, that's what we do, because it's funny, right? Them gay people are funny. That's what we're talking about.
That's gold. When do we start filming?
I know. And it was the #1 show in America forever. It was terrible. Terrible.
Oh, Meyer mentions Adam 12. Always an emergency 51 man myself.
Oh, well, yeah. That's
the rescue paramedic guys or whatever.
Yeah, that's it. Masks of Narrowtep. Yeah, that's good. The thing is, it's hard. It'll have to be like a 3-part adventure path. You couldn't really do a 6. I mean, believe it or not, Iron Gods is so niche. They would never do it. It's very well written. Robert Pine was Sergeant. Sorry.
That guy. Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't Larry. Okay. Sorry. I got mixed up. You're completely right. I messed up. But now, yeah, it was still Chips. And Robert Pine was a main part of that. He was the captain, right?
Yeah, it was like the shift commander captain.
Sergeant, yeah, he was a sergeant. He's Chris Pine's father. I'm sorry, I thought it was Larry Wilcox who played John, so I made a mistake. But the thing is that Agents of Edgewatch, if you're not listening to our podcast, it's every episode, every book, is based off 1 or 2 movies. They're not even just based off a genre. They're literally based off a movie that most of them came out in the 70s or 80s. And so they just took the movie, or they took some real world event, and then they turned it into an adventure path. So you could very easily turn that entire adventure path into a movie. Although if they did, they'd probably just say, hey, you just literally ripped off these 8 movies that already exist.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally have one, Assault on
Precinct 13 or whatever, yeah.
Well, it said it was an assault on not Precinct 13, but it's based off Assault on Precinct 13. They call it Assault on Garrison 7. And you're like, It's literally the same movie, except now it's an adventure. So
and the one book that's the casino heist is kind of like an Ocean's 11.
It's Ocean's 11. Yeah. Totally Ocean's 11. So. And there's one scene that is literally black. There's literally Black Sunday. It's just Black Sunday. They made it into a adventure path.
I'm imagining the other show as a movie and everyone complaining about why do they stop everything and do the circus for 15 minutes? Halfway through the movie.
It's funny too, because Agents of Edgewatch, which I think is one of my favorite adventures of all time, and holy crap, talk about someone who's really, really, really pessimistic about adventures is Seth. Seth freaking loves this adventure. But it's because we know where it's drawing its inspiration from, but it actually ranks pretty low on a lot of people's lists. But whatever. So
it was also caught up in the whole police, anti-police settlement with the George Floyd thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much that weighs on the whole thing, but
yeah. So if you have any quick questions, otherwise I think we're going to wrap it up. So the summary is, That D&D movie, I give it a 8.5 out of 10. I'm definitely
I'm
gonna.
more of an 8, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm gonna definitely see it again. Probably see it in the theater more than once. I'm probably gonna see it one more time, maybe in Pittsburgh with my friends, because and it was very rewatchable too. Like it's one of these that it was so interesting and it was so fast moving and it was so funny and there's a lot of little things you're gonna miss that it is very, very enjoyable, relaxing movie to watch. It was just freaking fun and it was great. What do you say? What are you gonna say, Jay?
Just that that's about where I am, and I mean, I'm at an 8. So I maybe if you want to get numeric, I'm a little lower than you, but not much. And I certainly agree with just about everything you said about it. And I think I'd add that it's with all the stuff kind of homogenizing around superheroes. It's nice to see fantasy kind of come in swinging again and really put a product out there. I mean, whatever you think of the whole. Obviously there's a crowd here that's like come to this through the whole lens of the OGL. Set that aside for a second.
Yeah,
it's nice to see high fantasy swords and sorcery come in swing and put a good movie out there. And I personally, I say go see it. Hopefully a rising tide raises all ships and they start making more movies like this one, and that's a good idea. So, yeah, like you, I'm going to go see it again, possibly more than once. And like you said, to go catch things I might have missed the first time, because it was kind of there's like layers.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's if you really want to get into it, you can take another viewing just to check the things you didn't see the first time. And so it's like, yeah, I'd definitely give it a ringing endorsement. And so does man. Weren't enough girls in it, but I loved it.
Oh my god. I don't know. We got a dragon, but we need a different type of dragon. How about a real fat dragon? Yeah, fat dragon. Fat dragon. He slides around on his belly. And he's just they can't seem to really fly very well. He's like, everyone's gonna laugh. All those little kids are gonna be like, oh, fat dragon, fat dragon.
Dude, where do you come up with these ideas? I love it.
It was a good dragon. I hate to say it.
I like
Pudgy dragon. Oh, it's a pudgy dragon. Pudgy dragon. You know what else I liked is that we have had so much. God, I can't believe I'm complaining about this. There is a lot of high fantasy, and we have Lord of the Rings. You have Harry Potter, but Harry Potter's its own genre. I won't even say that is nothing. Harry Potter is the Harry Potter genre. That is its own thing. So I can't even say that. But and then you have all the Lord of the Ring TV shows, and you
want to count Wheel of Time. That's only had one season so far.
Yeah, but you have Wheel of Time, and then you have the Dance of Dragons, whatever the dragons stuff, and it's all super serious, and there's a lot of serious fantasy, and that's great. But you know what?
You can't always be serious. You gotta have some moments of levity. You gotta have some time. You gotta have some time where you just actually have a good time and enjoy yourself too.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's a very relaxing, silly, fun, goofy movie.
I mean, I love serious stuff. Great. I mean, it's got its place too. But sometimes you just want to, put your brain on a low power setting and enjoy yourself, and laugh a little and cheer a little. And this is the sort of movie that definitely give you that.
Warren Rawlings, a boat is a boat, a ship is a nice boat like a yacht. Actually, no, a boat is a boat. A ship is something that carries boats. That is the definition. Me? So there you go.
Yeah. I think you're making that.
No, it's true. A boat is a boat.
I don't know.
A ship carries boats. That's the difference. A boat cannot carry another boat, but a ship carries boats.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and believe you. I am not a.
You're learning a lot today. I taught you two things. Although one of them was wrong.
My grandfather was a Navy man. I threw up the first time I was on his boat, so I'm not a Navy man. I'm not a nautical man in any way.
Well, my father was an Air Force man, so I don't know why I know about ships, but I just do.
Pick up some things in life, I guess.
Yes. Loved the movie. Saw it at 2 p.m. Yep, I saw it too. Both Jason and I did. Film a great. Yep, ton of heart. It was great. It was great. It's probably the best fantasy movie I've seen. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, Lord of the Rings is like 10 out of 10. I mean, that's its
Yeah,
own
I mean,
level.
it's certainly not going to beat the Lord of the Rings
Nothing
movies,
will,
but
ever.
I mean,
Yeah.
well, it might beat the second and third Hobbit movies.
Oh, it beats the Hobbit movies.
As a full experience.
Definitely. No, it definitely.
mean,
I think it beats all the Hobbit movies, to be honest.
I thought the first Hobbit movie was okay. I mean, then again, that's not exactly okay is not exactly a ringing endorsement. But
they're fine. They're fine. They were overly long. I mean, I won't get into that because that was supposed to be 2 movies, stretched it into 3, felt it, and it was they like, let's take a 200-page children's book and make it into 9 hours of movie.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I will still admit though that I was just like 10-year-old me was just giddy during the entire riddle scene though, just because that was one of those things that I always wanted to see on a big screen, and there it was, and you had that moment. But as a whole, I think this was certainly better than the Hobbit movies ended up being.
And and Eric Mona said it when we asked, "Is like, do you want this to be successful?" And he said yes, because if this is successful, you're going to see more movies like this. And we'll find out.
Let's put the fact that Hollywood is derivative and imitates success to work for us.
Yeah, and then I have a feeling, because think about it, they had Warcraft. Remember that came out?
Oh yeah, it's like David Bowie's son was directed that one, or whatever.
And it was fine. It was nothing great, but it was, again, serious high fantasy. It's like, this is the first time we've had a Marvel type Guardians of the Galaxy goofy, silly fantasy, and it was fantastic. And I guarantee this does well. Hollywood's going to be seeing dollar signs, and they're going to be going, and they know fantasy works because everyone knows fantasy, and they're going to be like, okay, like green light stuff. They're just going to start green lighting things. Good. I hope they do a Pathfinder movie.
Hold on, I got to give this one to John Gus for mentioning the animated Hobbit. The greatest adventure is what lies ahead.
Oh my God, that was a good
Sorry, Rankin Bass Hobbit.
Wow. All right, good job. And then I was going to say there was one other funny comedy fantasy movie that did come out, and now I'm totally drawing a blank because I am old and I can't.
Well, I'm not, and also I'm not counting the one that was like, wasn't there like one with like Seth Rogen and Natalie Portman or something that was like total comedy? It was like
Your Highness.
Yeah,
that was terrible.
I'm not even counting that. I mean, that was
terrible. Yeah. I've only seen it 10 times. Because
that's like making fun of the genre. That's like not even taking
that
the
was
genre
just making
seriously.
that was yeah. Oh, Knights of Badassdom. Nah, not really. It's like they tried to be funny, but they're just not funny. Yeah, those don't quite do it. Your Highness, that movie. I was so excited. I actually saw them previewed at Comic-Con, and I was like, "Oh my God, that sounds great!" And then I saw it. I'm like, "Oh my God, this movie is not good."
Yeah, it's like the difference between making fun of the genre versus like having fun with it with respect and affection for the genre. And I think it's an important distinction.
Yeah, we're talking about Your Highness, not Knights of Badassdom. We're talking about Your Highness. But yeah, it's just like these doing a fantasy movie that's not serious. It's very hard to do, and if it wasn't hard to do, that they would have done a million of these movies, and they would have done this a long time ago. Serious is actually a lot easier to do. I mean, you could do serious pretty easily. I think they just cost a lot, and you have to get really good actors and have really good scripts. For something like this, you just need really good comic timing, and you need like a very well-oiled. Actually, Your Highness is a good example of how this does not work. If you want to compare the two, it was supposed to be a comedy, but it just never connected, and it wasn't funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have something like this that is a comedy, and it's funny as hell, and it connects constantly, and once it gets going, it just never stops, and everyone was loving it. My theater was like ripping they were just dying.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like D&D, you'll like it even more. And Adam's like, he goes, I'm like, was it funny? He goes, oh, it was great. He's like, and the guy next to me, he was loving it. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, he was laughing at everything. And I was like, yeah, he must be a D&D player. I was like, he's like, he must have gotten all the in jokes that you didn't get. But Adam, and last time I'll say it, but during the graveyard scene, Adam was like dying. He was just laughing his ass off. That scene was so well done.
Mm-hmm.
It was an excellent.
That was. I mean, if you have to pick one high point of the movie that you would show someone else to get them to go see it, that's probably the scene. I mean, that's like particularly the full scene, not just the clip that was making the rounds online. But
the clip is funny too, but the clip's full
funny
scene
too. But it keeps. But yeah, the actual movie they keep going with it, and it's still funny. I mean,
well, even like there's a lot a lot of good scenes. Oh, that's a Critical Role, the Critical Role cartoon. That's about the closest you get to this, because Critical Role the cartoon has a lot of comedy. I'd even say Critical Role is a lot more serious than this movie was. This movie is really, really. Oh, there's a lot of way more. I
haven't finished watching the whole Critical Role yet, but I noticed that there is a tone shift from the actual the YouTube videos to the Amazon show. It seems like they kind of prettied it up and made it more serious, and it's
actually very serious.
Yeah, I mean, okay, was it Scanlon, the Bard character? Scanlon. He's like the designated comic relief, but the rest of it's actually played pretty serious.
It's quite serious, especially the second season's a lot more serious, and the first season's pretty. It's fine. I liked it very much, but like this was true funny comedy, almost a Mel Brooksian type level of comedy. Like it's that much. Like this is almost Spaceballs, but for fantasy, almost.
But still with enough genuine like action adventure to keep it.
Oh yeah,
from completely degenerating into just a bunch of dick jokes or whatever.
Yeah, I can't wait, and I'm very, very. I hope it's a huge hit, and I hope they make sequels, and I hope we see a lot of other imitators and other people trying to do this, and suddenly we have funny fantasy instead of everything being serious fantasy. Because it's like it's so funny. It's like I can't believe I'm complaining about serious fantasy. It's like I would have been happy for anything. Well,
I think that
was what I was gonna say. Wait, I know one. Willow was trying to do this,
but that was like 30 years. Willow's like 25, 30 years old. Are you talking about the TV show?
No, I'm talking about the movie, because the movie does have a lot of comedy in it with Mad Mardigan, and like they did it, but it was one of those, they tried to make it serious, but they were, and they had a comic relief, but it was a serious movie. And this is the first time, they used to call these, I saw a big thing on this, Jason, is that the Marvel way, they used to call that 80s cop movies. Because you think about 80s cop movies where everyone's always snarking at each other, and you have partners that hate each other but love each other and always ripping on each other.
They kind of took that and reinvented it.
Yes. And that's exactly what this is. And that did not exist back then. It was only 80s cop movies that did that. Now everything does that. Every type of movie does it. And it's good. But
I think there's an element of, we wanted any sort of fantasy, and they gave us serious fantasy, and that worked for a while. But after a while, we're like, okay, what else can we have? Like, it's like you're going to serve us steak, and we love steak, but can we try something else off the menu? I mean, so
the question is, this a funny film to target kids as a future market target? It's a movie that anyone could see. You could be 14 and you will probably love this movie. You could be 50 and you'll love this movie. It's very Guardians of the Galaxy, that they hit the right notes that anyone could see it and they'll probably enjoy it. It's probably a little too, I don't think an 8-year-old would get it.
Most of there's
12, anything 12, 14 will be fine. 12-year-olds will get it. Definitely. I think that's probably the youngest you could bring is a 12-year-old. I think younger kids would enjoy it, but I don't know if they would get it. but it's very clean. It's a very clean movie. There's no like, it's not even any sexual innuendo. I mean, there's like two curses, and that's it.
I'm trying to think. I mean, there's not even really a lot of people getting killed on screen.
No.
There's some implied deaths.
No,
but
there's more like beat up. It's more like they beat people up, and there's no, the only people who quote die are like undead. So who cares?
Or like when the displacer beasts are like killing adventurers.
That's not
in the
off
main,
screen. Yeah.
You see one off in the distance getting attacked, but it's like, or there's one that's implied that they get killed by the displacer beast, but you don't see it. I mean,
it had as much violence and death as Toy Story.
Yeah, so it's in that sense, it's very easy for a younger audience.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think a lot of the sort of more glib stuff would kind of just go shoot. I mean, you know, like someone under the age of 10 or something. Okay, the fat dragon will kind of be funny, but you know, most of the sort of verbal humor would probably just kind of fly over their heads and like, okay. I think the sarcasm's a little more advanced than a young audience would really register.
Yeah, that's the one thing. But it's you don't need to know D&D. I told you, it's my son saw it. He knows nothing about Dungeons and Dragons. He couldn't tell you anything about it at all, and he totally loved it. So, yeah, it was great. Someone caught up. The Thief Acrobat was in Dragon Magazine. Oh, no, I'm aware that they eventually, I mean, heck, the Barbarian was from Dragon Magazine. A lot of those classes, they came out with.
Cavalier, too.
Yeah, Cavalier. Like, all that stuff came in Dragon Magazine later. And I think the Barbarian was the first class added after the core classes in Dragon, and that came out because of Conan the Barbarian. And I loved the Barbarian, and I played the Barbarian in first edition D&D because they were badass and they were
I wish I could find. I used to have.
I have them all.
They used to have this like Dragon Magazine archive on CD, and I bought one. And now they're so rare that they're like going for like $200, $300 on eBay. And I wish I knew where mine was because I have a copy.
I have all my copies still in my attic, the real ones. How about that?
Nice.
Yeah. Really, that CD? I think I know where someone's selling. I saw that in the store not too long ago. Huh. Maybe I'll go buy it.
Well, it could be that it's like. Then again, last time I looked into it was like 5 years ago. It might be that it's like now somehow lost value or people have started making copies of it or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
there
was a while where it was going for like $200, $300 on eBay.
So hopefully you guys get something out of that. It's been 2 hours and we just can talk about movies forever, but overall it was stunningly good.
Yep.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, still can't believe it. I will never stop believing. Don't stop believing. See, you and I both did it at the same time. Don't stop. To that feeling. As soon as I said it, I'm like, we both went there.
Yeah, so, I went for the high note. Deal with it.
So do like and subscribe, and if you want to see Chaz and Brett's movie reviews, where we watch movies and pretend we're from the 70s.
Come on, people. You know you love it.
You know you love it. Just like and subscribe, and maybe we'll do that in the near future, because holy crap, there's a lot of good movies coming out in the next 2 months. Here we go. Bro Steve and Bro Jason. That's
Bravo.
Right.
Yeah.
Bro Brothers. Yeah. It does something to your voice, though. I need something to drink.
Yeah, you can't really sustain that for more than about 45 seconds.
I know, it starts to really hurt after a while, but hey, man, you know, I remember the 70s.
I barely remember, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're saying. Well, you know, Coke is a hell of a drug, I'll tell you that right now. By the way, I don't do drugs, but Chaz does. Chaz, you know, he lives and dies by them drugs. I tell you, that's all. I just went to the medical marijuana store. I can't believe it. Back in my day, I had to go behind the scenes and have to go to like Bryant Park to get all this stuff. And now I can just walk down the street and walking right into a store next to CVS. It's fantastic, I tell you. What a time to be alive! What a time to be alive!
Hell yeah!
Hell yeah, brother!
All right, we probably have to stop this before we end up on some watch list.
Oh, too late. We're already on the watch list. They're like, those Chaz, but they're going to be looking for Chaz. And
that's true. Chaz and Brett. Yeah,
Chaz and Brett.
Know it's us. Our expert disguise skills have fooled them.
All right, turn off the spoiler warning. Spoiler warning is off. All right. I will see you guys all in the future with Brett and Chaz.
Yep. Thanks for joining us. It was nice to share our thoughts with you.
All right. See ya.